I think you might have a thing in the office that's not in there.
That's right. You introduced me, we'll be fine.
Look at there.
Hi, Dwayne.
Even more time for you. Actually, I wasn't quite this afternoon, so don't read too much into it.
Yeah, agenda. We don't have any agendas, Dwayne, so we're going off the website.
Oh, I wasn't there today. You'd have had it if I was.
Yeah. Usually they have it over here. All right, it's 5:02. Let's get started, and we are all here. I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. And then a motion to approve the minutes from the September 5th meeting. I'll make that motion. A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any public comments? All right, and public information meeting regarding the dissolution of the Port Plaza condo plat and commission on assessor's plat to resurvey the parcel. You want to take it, Dwayne?
Actually, I'm gonna let Nick take it first, then I'll follow up behind him. Nick did a lot of work on it, and I've been helping him put it together.
Okay, so I guess for starters, just by way of a little bit of background, something like 25 years ago, in
There you go.
the mid-90s, and this won't be too long, but I just want to give some context. This building, the building that we're in, was there are multiple suites, so to speak, multiple addresses, and this was they created, and when I say they, I'm not entirely sure even who they is collectively as a group, but a condominium association was created. And it provided for rights and responsibilities of the various owners of these various suites, so to speak. And the village was among them. And so since that time, since I think it was 1995, 1996, there's been almost no, to my reckoning, either no documentation, no manner in which the parties involved have behaved as though this is a condo association, which kind of makes sense from the standpoint that it's just not, how do I put this? It's just not intuitive for this to be seen as a condo association, right? I mean, would anybody have thought that it was? No, it just, in a lot of ways, it doesn't make sense. So, but what this has caused is it's caused some friction in a variety of ways. When properties are going to be bought or sold, a lot of times title companies get tripped up by the fact that it's part of a condo plat, which, you know, that it makes insuring title very difficult. Some title companies deal with it, some ignore it. I mean, it's hard to tell exactly. The village has purchased some property within, and then Cyber One is a good example, and then had to turn around with a development agreement at that time, and then I think it's come back. The one on the end here was done a couple of years ago, but ultimately they're also part of a condo association, a condo plat. And that's really interfering with the village's ability to ensure, to guarantee that clear title goes to the property owners if there are going to be, first of all, if the village is going to make any agreements for development agreements for tax increment financing funds to go to assist various property owners with development of businesses. And I know this is in the business district, so this is something that's a priority for the village. Plus we have TIF money to work with, and we want to be able to use it. So a few years ago, when I was with my former firm, we had looked at doing something about this,
Mhm.
and nothing really was done because the momentum on it was limited at that time. There weren't anybody, there were no business owners along this other than Cyber One that had really motivated to do
The
that.
Lex, the beauty parlor.
Well, right, there were business owners here, but business owners
And-
that were motivated to do anything with the village in terms of development agreements was limited at the time.
Mhm.
And then, of course, but at that time, we had to, it was, the Cyber One suite was owned by
Church.
Christian Life Fellowship, I think.
Mhm.
And then, so we had to get, we got different approvals from the different owners and we got enough to cover it, but it was enormous pain. It would cost a ridiculous amount of time. And so I think it's time. My recommendation would be that we get rid of this condo plat for a couple of different reasons. Number one, the common areas are being maintained by the village anyway.
Right.
I mean, it's terms of snow shoveling and all this stuff. It's just the village is already doing it. So there's not, the village isn't gonna be taking on any more of a role than we
Right.
already have. Number two, the village itself, to say nothing of the individual property owners, has party walls with other property owners, okay? So all of this obviously is shared walls, between the property owners. So we're reasonably certain that the survey lines are accurate with the walls, but, not, I mean, I can't be 100% sure without an updated survey, which is why I'm recommending that a survey be done, so that can be ascertained.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question? So when you're suggesting we do a survey, that's gonna be at the village's cost, not any of the condo owners?
That's correct. And I think that it makes sense for a couple of different reasons. Number
We
one,
created this mess?
well, indirectly, yeah. And it was, and again, it was done 25,
When I
almost 30
say
years ago.
we, I don't mean us. They.
There was, to my knowledge, only, it's my understanding that the village board may not have had a full picture of what it was getting into at the time of what this meant. So, there's no, I mean, it's whoever's fault it is, it's everybody's problem.
Right.
So we have to deal with it. And so, relative to the cost associated with the property owners, several property owners probably are, I mean, I sent out letters to let people know, to the individual property owners, to let people know that we'd be addressing this here today, and that, not.
Did you receive that letter?
And not that any, like final decisions on what the survey is going to look like or anything are ready to be made today, because we still have a process. But, the idea, as some property owners may not be motivated to address it because it doesn't really affect them directly. It
Right.
indirectly might affect them, or it might affect them 10 years down the road when they try to sell their properties, or when it's gonna, if somebody passes and it gets transferred in an estate. I mean, there are all sorts of times where it might impact it. But so the village, from the standpoint of the village and stakeholders that are interacting with the village, it makes sense for the village to address it now. And the cost of a survey on this is, it's gonna be higher than the cost of your normal survey on, like, if you get a survey of your
Mhm.
home
Right.
lot. But at the same time, it's gonna address this issue of where, like, being certain of where all the property lines are. And it'll give all the property owners also an opportunity to be involved as stakeholders in this as well. We will continue to try to notify property owners about these things. Now, just as an aside, if I may, regarding notice, one of the reasons the property owners may not have seen notice in the usual channels, like in the paper and that sort of thing, on some of this stuff, or may not, is because we're doing it as an assessor's plat rather than a certified survey map. And the reason for that is that it's just going back from the condo plat to more or less something that's approximating its previous plat. But with that said, we want to make sure all the property owners are aware so that nobody feels like they never had an opportunity to involve themselves in the process if they want to.
Right.
Again, and I want to be clear about something else too. We're trying to just verify where the current survey lines are. There's not, going to be a change as far as we are aware at this time, but I guess the surveyor, we'd like to have Kevin Whipple do it, and he's, well-known, like Badgerland surveyors. But as the idea is to just make sure we're aware of where the current lines are. The intent is not that anybody loses territory, so to speak, loses property, or anything. It's just to clarify, because we want to know where the common areas are that we need to address. For example, over here, and as I point, I'm thinking, the southeast rear of the building, there looks like there's parking back there, but that's actually all, right of way for the alley. None of that is part of this. However, on the southwest side, there are a couple of areas that are actually part of the common area. So we need to figure out exactly what that is, how we're gonna handle it, whether the, any existing property owners might have responsibilities or rights to that they can, that they can decide how they want to handle that, and the village can work with that. But I think overall, it makes more sense to just do that, so then we know. I anticipate that the village will continue to formally then have responsibility for common areas, because they won't be part of a condo association where, I mean, in theory, the existing property owners could have responsibility for clearing snow and doing all of the maintenance there, and a cost associated with that. The village has, I think, somewhat generously and predictably taken on that role. But I think in terms of risk of the existing property owners, we don't want that to continue in how it is from the standpoint of them being responsible in the village, assuming it. We just want the village to assume it permanently.
So for the property owners, besides that parking thing that you see as being a little weird, is there any other changes that they might anticipate operationally, like how this relationship works?
Probably not. Well, I guess, Dwayne, if you have something to say about that, but.
Yeah, when looking at, when you do the plan of survey, the front end, the front of the building, right now, the village is taking care of all that, and we would like to make it stay in the right of way or property of the village. The village will maintain the parking, the village will maintain the sidewalk, etc., just like we're doing now. And therefore, and similar to across the street, they have the same parking spot. We clean the streets there too. So it's actually doing it right now.
Can I ask you a question? Doesn't across the street, we don't maintain those parking lots, right?
I'm pretty sure when they plow through there, I don't think we have parking right on our street right away in some of those places. If it's off the right of way, they maintain it. If it's in the right of way, we do.
Okay.
Well, also, and 241 over there is part of the area that we want to get surveyed as well. And the reason being, if you look at, say, hopefully everybody's familiar with like the GIS map online, where you look at, and the property lines on there are approximate to begin with.
Right.
And so here we expect them to match the walls, because that's where the walls were built originally, to the best of my understanding. But across the 241, there's like 3 lots. There's the building, and then there's the sort of parking lot next door, and then there's another alley. And so in order to determine exactly what's going to happen with the Mission Coffee thing, we need to have precise lot lines, so we know what everybody's rights and responsibilities are, and what the village is transferring, and who's responsible for maintenance and all of those things. Plus, 241, I think, shares a wall with is it the kennel next
In the
door?
middle.
Correct.
So we need to figure some of that. That's.
And the post office, I looked at GIS maps, so we need to do that area too.
Yeah.
So it all has a sort of survey, so everybody, then when you look at their deeds and their titles, etc., it belongs to them specifically. It doesn't just have walls, and I think what we're doing is cleaning it up, really. The second thing I wanted to mention is that in the rear, we have an alley, and the building jogs back and forth in different pieces. What I'm looking at is that certain areas, let's say, would have their, but certain areas of that park in the back would belong to those individuals who have their building there. So if, like, for example, the beautician, for example, has a certain section behind that building, though that would actually let that go, would be surveyed out to that individual so they can park their cars there. The municipal building's the same way. The restaurant the same. As you go down the line, each one has their back area that they specifically will own and maintain. And at the same time, maybe can even do an extension on them. A good example is the El Cafe. In the back behind it, they even got their coolers and a few other things that is outside the building, but then still there's to maintain.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Dwayne. Like there's opportunity to, when Dwayne uses the phrase clean it up, that's probably the best way to describe it, because from a standpoint of lot lines and responsibilities and plats, this, area is kind of a mess.
Really messy.
And so I think it's appropriate for the village. I mean, the cost to the village right now is, it's not nothing, but it's not, I mean, we're not talking about,
Irrelevant and
we're not talking about spending $100,000 to get this done. We're talking about, a couple thousand for a survey, a couple thousand for my time, and then a few meetings to kind of get it
Right.
set. And then the village will probably want to do some party wall agreements once we figure out verify that the walls are, and like if the walls are not in the quote unquote right place for the survey, we'll have to figure that out, but I think the best way to do it is just to set it, because you're not, I mean, you're gonna move walls internally a few feet, or maybe some
Yeah.
property is compensated, or maybe the village just gives,
Nick.
it's the benefit of the property owners, who knows?
Okay, but when we do this, when I work with the surveyor, we'll make sure we can tie those walls down at that time. So there is no dispute where it be, because if the wall is there, we want to make sure identifying where that wall is, and that wall has been identified in that assessor survey. So there is no question, because I want to nail that down also for every property owner or every person who's in the facility. I have a question, and we're kind of in this public information meeting. I don't know who's in the audience. I want to make sure who is in the audience. So who's there from what building?
Mr. Sweeney is here from next door to the salon, and Mission Jen is here.
Next door is salon. What is that? What facility is that?
Business.
Lab Instrument Services?
Did you hear that? Lab Instrument Services.
I didn't know there's alongside a salon then, right?
Yeah.
And then another
Between
beyond
the
that is
salons.
cyber is one is beyond that.
There's nobody here from them.
No, I mean,
And
he's a property, he's a. Yeah,
Is
that,
that-
in that
so
way.
it's Mr. Sweeney, and then the salon, and then Cyber One.
Okay. I just want to make sure we work with all the property owners. I just want to get my hands around it.
Big stretch.
So anyway, yeah, the big picture is that if we clean all of this up, we do not anticipate any negative impacts to property owners. In fact, I would anticipate that the impacts to property owners would be pretty much exclusively positive, because they would finally have clear title to their properties, which right now, if you try to get a mortgage or sell a property, you get this, your title company looks at it and it's like, well, there's this condo plat, and then that's an exception usually on your title work. And which means you're not protected for the purposes of if anything happens, any disputes come up related to that.
Right.
And so I think all the property owners benefit, the village benefits, because then it has more flexibility in terms of, we're within a half mile of a tax increment financing district. So, which, because with DMI being where it is, and or the former downtown, and that's where the borders of the district are close enough. So there are still opportunities for TIF related funds to be spent. And then it just makes it much easier for everybody to know what the score is, so that if something comes up in the future, it's all I mean, it's probably going to save both the village and property owners, legal fees and, title and real estate related fees down the road.
On that note of fees, moving on. Mr. Sweeney, do you have any questions?
No.
Guys have any questions?
I have one. Is there any downside to getting dissolution of the condo? I mean, was that serving any purpose at all? I know you said that we weren't really following that.
I don't think it served a clear defined purpose.
Well, so it's really unusual for a condo association to be the vehicle for taking care of this building.
Mm-hmm.
It would make more sense if it was all residential. Even if it was all commercial and not any municipal. Condo association just is a bizarre way of doing it, because you could think, I mean, maybe you'd have like some sort of association, I don't know, so. The benefit of condo association really is that you get collective input and collective, participation in the care of the
Which
common
hasn't been
areas.
happening.
But yeah,
Right.
it practically speaking,
So the short, cheap answer is, we
No.
haven't.
We haven't been doing it
It's
anyways. I just didn't know if there were any other stipulations, like, for example, and I don't even know if this is legal, but before you're allowed to purchase, we need to, I don't know what you're purchasing it for and how you're gonna use it and whatnot, right?
there's nothing like that, but there are some restrictions on transfers that were inconvenient when Cyber One was going in.
Okay.
And didn't appear to serve any logical purpose. And so we were able to get the buy-in we needed from enough participants, but the relative voting power was based on square footage, and it's a whole, I mean, it actually, a condo association in theory has benefits. In this case, it actually has, had detriments to.
Right, right. And that's a problem I noticed since I was there before, and a few years back, we had the Cyber One. And also now that the village has taken a positive role in purchasing some of these facilities. And the transfer of the stuff has been very difficult. Now that we want to transfer to other people, again, it's getting more difficult to record them. And at the same time, I think it'd be good for each one to have their own clear title. So it cleans it up, really. It cleans up their titles, it cleans up the distribution, and I don't even see how it can operate as a condo association, because it's so archaic for this specific facilities and the ones in the area across the street.
Yeah, the county treasurer won't even accept maps right now that don't address the condo association part of it. Like, that's a thing that we never ran into in the past, but it has become an issue with the register of deeds in the county, the treasurer's office. So this is the kind of thing that we could have anticipated maybe back then, but whatever, we got to deal with it now. So
Right.
I think we deal with it.
So I'm gonna make the motion to recommend to the village board to hire a surveyor to commission an assessor's plat to resurvey the parcel of the dissolute Port Plaza condo plat.
I'll second that.
Is there something?
No, but in that motion, it includes across the street, that's also,
Yes, that should be, let me see.
it's Port Plaza.
I think we should put that at a couple addresses across the street. I did not know that you're gonna have that, Nick, so I think it just amend the motion, so it includes the parcels across the street from
Yeah, you can amend that too. The
post office all the way to the other address that Jen's looking at.
yeah, that the motions specifically include the property. I'd say properties affected by the 241 Market Street.
Okay, so how do we circle around the block on that? Somebody needs to make a motion to amend the motion?
Yeah, or just.
Or just withdraw your motions.
I'll withdraw the motion. So,
Put a new motion on the table.
So what I would say is propose the motion as written, except resurvey parcels in the dissolute port pond.
Condo
the
plat
plat
and-
And properties affected, or properties and 241 Market Street and adjoining properties.
Nick, I
Okay.
didn't know the name of the survey company. Why don't you put it right in there so we can just keep moving forward?
I think, what is it, Badgerland?
That's what I thought you said, Badgerland.
Yeah.
Remember? Write
Because,
this
I mean,
down.
that's who I'd recommend using, and the reason is, they have some familiarity. with the- it's not, there's not like I don't have a personal stake in it, I just know that they are.
So,
familiar.
but that doesn't, I mean, we can do it without it, right, Dwayne, for,
We can, I just didn't know who he had emails. He said Kevin, so I never knew the name of the company.
Yeah, it's Kevin Whipple, he probably does half the surveys and.
okay, so I'm gonna
Or the
make the
background.
motion as read with the addition of the additional,
241 Market Street and adjoining properties, I think covers that.
that. Can I get a second?
Just making notes.
You got it.
Recording.
Second.
Okay.
Who's recording this?
I am.
Okay.
Any questions? Any other? All right, all in favor?
I,
Aye. All right, so that should be your part, Mr. Sweeney. I think we're all set there. And then before we proceed, we didn't really have on the agenda for Jen to speak, so if you guys are okay with this, I'd like to back up and under public comments on the agenda, go ahead and Jen has some things to share with us, just keeping us up to date. Is that all right? To do it that way?
Yeah, I think so, if they,
Okay.
there's no motions involved is what.
right,
No,
there's no action. on-
And Jen, if you want to come up here and join us, that would be fine.
May I ask, Dwayne, did you need me for the closed session at all?
Not at all. You're, yeah, as far as we have what you need, Nick, and the rest I'll take care of.
Yeah, well, I just,
Punch out and hit the bricks.
my wife needs my help making dinner.
What's that?
My wife wants me to help make dinner tonight. And
Yeah. All right, so
you don't mind if I use
see you
the
later.
restroom?
Thank you. No, go ahead. Jen and Caleb, I don't remember. Did you guys meet, Jen?
I have not. I'm
Hi.
also Jen.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
All right. Give us an update on where you're at.
Yeah, so thank you. I tried to, this is a really, I just want to preface all this by saying I think this is a great time for us to just start fresh. My intention tonight is sort of give you a frame up where we've been, how we've gotten to this point. But I really hope that the focus is on how we're gonna move forward.
Right.
But I did want to go back and just, it helped me too, to go back and just see what our journey has been up to this point. We've had a lot of start, stop, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of, I think, misinformation, misunderstanding. So if you don't mind, I'm just gonna, I'll 30,000 foot view, but I just want to give you sort of a rundown of what this has been like on our end. So it was back actually in 2021 when we first had discussions with Boz. He met my husband in the Leadership Wood County program. My husband was in the group that helped move Central Park forward. And so they met, they got to talking. Obviously my husband shared a little about Mission Coffee and what our plan was, and Boz was interested. And so had reached out to us and just talked about the possibility of bringing a location here. Well, at the time, we have a location on campus at Midstate. We were only about a year and a half into that, so the timing just didn't really make sense, right? It was just a little too soon for us to think of expanding, but we really loved the vision of what Boz and the village was looking to do with the downtown area, and we just thought it was a great fit. It just wasn't a good time. So then in 2022, we revisited the idea because Boz had reached out to us and said, let's chat again. Are you interested in coming and look again? And so we toured 3 parcels that would be available. There were 2 on this side and then the one across the street, and we toured all 3 of them. Ultimately, we chose the location that we did because we didn't see the value in building out a space that we were fairly certain we were gonna outgrow pretty quickly and then have to build out again. So we just wanted to move into that space. So that's what that's the space we chose. And our initial discussions in 2022, and as I went through this, I realized, I mean, I've learned a lot through this process, right? But what I realized was a lot of what we talked about was verbal. And I wasn't firm about write that down. write that down, let's both, right? So there's just so much verbal back and forth, but I do have a lot actually that was, and I printed off all the emails if you ever want to see them, I'll hand them to you, you can see them. But just roughly, in 2022, what the agreement looks like was Mission Coffee, and actually at that point, we had Fiddlebread Bakery that was going to come on, and they were gonna use 800 square feet in the back of the building to build out a bakery. Provide artisan bread, we were gonna use their bread in our sandwiches, it was just a really great collaboration. The agreement that we had fleshed out with that was sort of graduated lease payments, right? We were gonna lease from the village. Our payment would be $350 for the first year, every month. Fiddlebread's would be 100. Year two, ours would go up to 450, theirs would go up to 200, and year three, ours would be 550 and go up to 300. Those lease payments were intended to go towards the purchase price, which we would have the option to purchase at the end of year three. In October of 2022 is when Boz and I met with Melinda with WEDC. And that's when we first started talking about the CDI grant. And so looking back at that conversation, that was actually when Boz should have put our name in the hopper if the village was going to choose us as your project, right? So you can apply for one project per year. I thought that was his intention, and that's when that should have been done, and it wasn't, is what we've learned now. But that was the first I had heard of the program, but my understanding from him was that he had plans to pursue that. Again, that grant requires the municipality to choose the project, so there was really nothing we could do to move that forward. But we thought that that was the direction we were heading. So in October, we signed a rough outline of an agreement and paid our $1,000 deposit. It was understood that by both of us that he would provide a more fleshed out agreement from the legal team at that point, would come shortly after. But we did that rough agreement of what I just outlined to you to be able to take advantage of a bounce back grant. And we were very upfront with them in that this was for a project to come down the road. But that's why we did sort of a shortened lease agreement. Fiddlebread Bakery also signed their agreement and intended to take up that 800 square feet. That following January is when I received an email from Boz that the village was still working with the courts to clean up title issues on the parcel. And so we set up a walkthrough with Fiddlebread for January 21st. But February 9th, Fiddlebread backed out of the agreement for personal reasons, but also they were getting a little gun shy at this point. Like this is several months with nothing in writing. At this point, we still had nothing in writing. So they backed out, and Mission decided to absorb their 800 square feet back into our plans. We went back to our designer, paid for a redesign, and then absorbed their lease payments into our agreement as well. We would just cover their lease payments. Boz did suggest that maybe we could just increase the purchase price, or we were talking about ways that if we didn't want to absorb that monthly cost, how it could reflect in the purchase price of the business. But ultimately we just said we're doing this with or without Fiddlebread, so let's find a way. So our designer redesigned the space to reflect the change, and I went back and reevaluated all my projections to make sure that we could still cash flow this thing without Fiddlebread. In March, I requested a water test, and I was told the plumber would do that when the water's turned on. I still don't have that. Mission Coffee sign was put up in March 24th, I believe. And in April 2nd, my legal team questioned the purchase price, and that's when I came to that meeting, and we just said, you know what, can we just know where that valuation came from, who did it, how recent is it? They just were kind of pushing back on the value of that, and so I came to that meeting and asked for a revaluation. May 23rd, I have it in my email that were offered a $30,000 grant from the village. But during this time period is when we received word, and this was kind of this was hard because we received word through the grapevine, people talk, right? We became aware that Boz was interviewing for other positions. And so being that I knew most of our agreements were verbal, most of our discussions were not captured in writing, I took my foot off the gas. I was like, I'm not going to continue making verbal agreements with someone I know has a foot out the door. And so we stopped pursuing that and agreed to wait. Actually, that was about the same time that Betsy took over as president of the board, I believe. And so there's just a lot of change happening. And so we just said, you know, hold up, we'll just wait up. And Boz agreed. June 22nd is when the official announcement, I think, and based on my emails, when we found out that he was officially leaving. So again, I said, I need a developer's agreement before you leave. I have to have something in writing before you go. And at Boz's request, we submitted a TIF district grant application, which came from Jill Kershevsky. She was on my staff. I have a copy here if you want to read it. I don't know if you ever saw it because we never heard back. Never heard anything back on that, but he encouraged us to put in our TIF district grant application for job creation, facade improvements, artwork project, and a micro loan. And they were all outlined here and approved by him, and he said it would be just turn it into you and or turn it in. I don't know if it was to you or who that went to, but never heard back on that. August 22nd is when, I think when like Scott Harrington came into the picture, and that's when he sort of hit the brakes again and said, hey, we're gonna encourage us to again go back and look at that grant, the CDI grant, but I don't think he was aware either that our name was nowhere in the hopper. So at this point, the money's just given away to the people who actually turned applications in, right? And so gave us some recommendations on the sale of the building, recommended a $4,000 grant, but I honestly, I don't actually know what that coincided with in our TIF application, I'm not sure. But $4,000 grant.
Scott recommended that or Boz did?
This was after, I don't know.
Okay.
I saw it in the paperwork that Boz had.
Okay, so Boz recommended provide the $4,000 grant, developer expenses the funds and provides proof of expenditure and then get paid that. That's when the CDI discussion came back up again, and we redirected our efforts to that into pulling the information together to the CDI, and basically they just need the cost of project, right? So we started pulling together every cost associated with the project. Was also recommended for a COVID grant loan or COVID grant monies, and then recommended the 50,000 village loan with some ideas on how to structure that. But the week of in September, a few weeks later, is when we found out that the CDI money was not available. The COVID money was not available, and I was encouraged to still do the application, the vetting package for the CDI grant, because unfortunately, sometimes projects don't come to fruition and the money comes back to them and we could still qualify. They just said, don't bank on that, right? Like, so we'll still do the vetting package. And if no money comes back and is eligible to be reallocated, then the next we'd be able to submit is for July 1, when the next round starts. And we were doing in the last meeting we had with them, and we'll be meeting with them again on Friday, sort of sifting through like, can we apply and then the grants go toward, can we get the ball rolling before we apply for the grant and still be eligible for grant monies? And so that's what we're trying to figure out. Because waiting until July is less than desirable for us. We were really hoping to be open when school started this year. This is just, it's been a long journey. So in a nutshell, how it started is what attracted us to it was like that $1,000 deposit, right? And those lease payments that I outlined, with the ability to purchase the building at the end. We've always wanted to purchase a building. That's never been an issue, right? We're in this for the long haul. We're not, I had friends approach me and be like, you're just gonna like milk this, right? And then move on. I'm like, Lord, no, like I would not be putting this much money into something that I intend to leave, right? We're here for the long haul. Was looking at 30,000 plus in grant money, and then the micro grant that that Boz outlined, looking at the CDI money, looking at the COVID money, looking at the revolving loan. So there was just a lot on the table that could help us make this happen. And now if you look at where we're at today, and we're still in, I'm not laying this out because I'm playing the heavy, we're still in, right? But now if we look at the agreement that we're looking at, it's purchase the building with it, it looks like with the terms we've laid out, we could have it purchased by that 3-year mark, right? With no balloon, we'll just have it paid off. Our build out actually came back much higher than I thought. So the build out came back at 151,000. So that's on us. A little bit of grant money, the $4,000 is very helpful. It helps us with equipment. Then that 50,000 revolving loan fund, and the remaining is to us. And I've been working with my commercial lender to try and figure out the best way to do that. With remaining, and if it's possible, right? So we need to know, I can't bury the business that I worked hard to build to make this happen. But I'm not averse to risk either. So I'm working closely with my commercial lender right now to figure out what's the best move for us and what's the best way for us to, be successful here and always updating those projections, right? We have to make sure we can cash flow this thing. So, but we still don't have a developers agreement, so it's really hard. I've stopped going to my paid by the hour professionals because I don't have anything concrete. I don't wanna go and just have conversations and pontificate of what this looks like. I have to have a developers agreement that I can go to them and say, this is what the village is offering. What does this look like? Can we move forward? I have to have that for my banker because depending on what the buying the building looks like, that impacts how I can borrow, if I can borrow. Right, so there's just a lot that's hanging in the balance of, I can't really move forward without that developers agreement. Yeah, so that's where we're at, and and if anyone has questions we want to discuss, that's great. Otherwise, I would just love to share with you, like, we're still excited and we still want to do this, and if I could just let you know, in fact, I'll give you these, you can look through them as I'm chatting, but oh, there you go. There's a card on top. This coming soon to Port Edwards has been around for an embarrassingly long time. Like, it's been at the chamber, it's been at our location. We've given it out at catering events. And then I did include my business card because I just want you to know at any time, if you have questions, if you are wondering where we're at, if you're wondering what our intentions are, just reach out. I will be painfully transparent with you. But please just ask, or if there's anything I can do to make this easier, move it faster. But our plan here, we're still all in, right? It's a yes until it's a no. And I think that it has to be a yes for both of us though. So I'm not asking the village to do anything that they're uncomfortable with. And I know the village isn't asking us to do anything we're uncomfortable with, but as of right now, it's a yes, and it's a yes until it's a no. And so currently we have a storage unit that's getting more and more full of equipment and furniture and supplies. And we had a Mission Coffee that shut down, so we bought their equipment. So we've got their refrigerator, their freezer, their coffee grinder, and that's all sitting. And we're just adding to that when we can, right? When it makes sense to buy the equipment and we can get a good deal on it. Our Mid-State location will remain open, and I think is gonna be a great partner actually to what will become our main store. So we did it backwards, right? We're gonna open the main store second. But Mid-State will still be a great partner for us, and we've seen tremendous growth at that location. And we'll continue to provide the mission experience on campus as long as they'll have us, right? Our plan is to provide breakfast and lunch hours Monday through Saturday. We'll be closed on Sundays, and we haven't picked specific hours, but we plan to have hours that will allow local students to have a safe and fun spot to hang out after school. That's really important to us. And we also are open to allow for local students to do the school to work program. So working with middle and high school to do some school to work hours. We have a lot of nods to the paper mill history and what we're doing and how we decorate and things like that. But one of the big things is we plan to have, we're going to call it Mission Coffee third shift. And those are our evening hours. So with a menu that's a little different than you'll see during the day, a little bit different than just traditional cafe food, but also having the craft beer and wine. So we're applying for a liquor license. We'll call that our third shift and have some plans for like Friday night light specials when the Blackhawks have home games. Open to partnering with the school for prom and homecoming events, things like that. We have a big space, and so I just want to be able to utilize it well. We have a VIP program, which is called Very Important Professionals. The other mission locations call it the Windows of Opportunity program. This is where local businesses, entrepreneurs, home-based businesses, they can utilize our space to have a storefront once a month. So they come on and pay to advertise with us. So a lot of stores will do it on their cup wraps. We are choosing to do it on our website. So our cups are going to have our logo and then a code that you just scan with your phone, right? And it takes you to the website. And that's where you'll learn about these different businesses that have signed on with us. And then once a month, we drive traffic to them by advertising on our social media, by just giving them shout outs and advertising that they will be on site, and they get 2 hours to use however they want. They can have a table in our shop. They can use it to educate. They can use it to talk to potential customers. They can use it however they want, but anybody that visits their table, we cover their drink. So it's just a way for them to have a storefront if they don't have a storefront, and for us to just bring different amenities to the village that maybe wouldn't otherwise be here. And so that will be one of the things that's on our website that is actually set to go live on December 1st. So we have someone that's rebuilding our website for us to reflect what will be happening here. The website we're using right now is really just online ordering for campus students and staff, right? It doesn't really serve a purpose much beyond that. So we're paying someone to rebuild the website that'll fit what we're doing over here. The next thing that you'll see on our website is what we call our Meet Your Neighbor program. And this is we just think it's a great way to build even deeper connections with village residents and guests. So what we do is we'll pick someone, let's say we pick you, Tiara, and you are the featured Meet Your Neighbor for that month, right? And we interview you, we find out some fun facts about you. Why do you love living in Port Edwards? What do you love about things like that? Your picture is on there if you agree to it. And then that's just a way for like when people go to our website, they get to meet someone without the awkwardness and vulnerability
Right.
required to walk across the cafe and meet you, right? So, and then as part of that, we ask you who are 5 people we need to know in Port Edwards, and then we just meet people and we help people make connections and
Integrate.
yeah, and have familiar faces. The Mission Community Give Back, we've talked a lot about that, but for every bag of retail coffee we sell, $1 goes back into the community. So whoever buys that bag gets to choose which organization it goes to. So far we're partnering, and we have been partnering with Central Park for a couple of years, and they will continue to be one of the organizations. We also had someone nominate Best Christmas Ever, so that will probably be one, and we'll be looking to choose 4 more. So obviously we'd like them if they're in Port, but if they're not, that serves Port at least. And so those get paid out quarterly, however many dollars are in the jar, we just cut a check to those organizations quarterly. We also have a fundraising program with our beans, so schools and service organizations and churches, nonprofits, they can do coffee bean sales, and $5 from every bag goes directly back to them. We plan to have evening events and partnerships on Monday and Tuesday evenings, so we won't have third shift hours regularly on Monday and Tuesday. We plan to leave those evenings for private events, for mid-state continuing education classes. We might come down and have like a wine tasting or an art class, or just adding some different events to the village. Fundraisers, things like that. We just want to have a couple nights where our schedule is open, and again, that big building can be used for the other things for the village. Milltown Mercantile is the retail shopping experience inside, and so that's just we curated some locally crafted items, local food items, mission merchandise, things like that. So there will be a little bit of shopping element to it, right? If you're coming to get lunch or grab a coffee, you'll have some things to shop around. So going back to when we had Fiddlebread coming on board with us and sharing space, there was a lot of a collaborative advantage to that. One being we're sharing some rent, right? There's a lot of square footage in there for just a coffee shop. So we want to be strategic in how we use that. And one of the things we've decided to do, or we'd like to do, is that there's a side, when you walk into the entryway, there's a side room that was kind of just looks like a boardroom. Maybe we could use it as a small party room. But we've actually decided we're fleshing out the idea of using it as a small, almost like a business incubator space. So we have a first business that's lined up and on board if we can get the details to work out. But they're looking to open a small clothing boutique, and it's upscale thrift and some new, but it's for girls and women. And what the possibility that we see in that is that we get to help another small business start up like Midstate did for us, right? We get to start in a very low risk space, very low risk arrangement. We got to get our feet wet, we got to learn, and we just had the safety to do that. And we want to offer that to other small businesses. So what happens is they could come in. We're just using the boutique as an example, right? So the boutique owner would come in, set up shop in that space. That would be the boutique space. Obviously pay us rent. So a little bit of that square footage will give us kick some money back. They will have access to mentors and to other business owners to help them learn and get their feet wet and get launched. And then if it were to work completely to fidelity and complete success stories, we would like to see them eventually get out, have their own storefront. Maybe they fill in one of the empty parcels down here, just helping other businesses get started. But at the same time, we're offering our customers and the village an additional experience, right? In this case, it's boutique shopping. It might be something else down the road. Outdoor seating area is something we're adding to the outside. We won't be keeping the drive-through. We want to add that and make that a garden-like setting. Just a place for our customers to sit. And I think it's a great fit with the Monarch Garden. Visitor center possibilities. So the Plover store is actually the official visitor center for Plover. And so we're open to creating we've got some experience from them and how to do that, how to just create a welcoming atmosphere and drive visitors to the Port Edwards area. One idea is we have a barista who's pulling together customized picnics that will highlight different areas of town, right? Somebody just wants to have an adventure, we'll create the picnic, we'll tell them where to go and might be the dog park, it might be a spot on the river, it might be Nakusa, whatever. We just create the picnic for them. And then finally, an annual main event we have planned is we'd like to do a pumpkin spice 5K. Where we bring racers to the village and, runners are given $25 in runner bucks and they get to donate to those organizations that we support. Along the way, they can decide where to put their bucks in. Then, of course, pumpkin spice lattes at the end. So, essentially, we just want you to know that we think we can bring tremendous value to the village and we'd love to be a partner in enhancing the downtown area. We think we can, we think we'd be a good addition. We know community, we know how to create connection. And we know coffee, right? So we've, the mid-state location is doing very well and we feel like we are at a point now that we can do this. So how we feel we can be best supported moving forward is getting that developers agreement completed, with terms that benefit us both, right? We're not looking, for anything that's not a win for the village. Please submit a CDI grant on our behalf if it comes down to it and, we're able to do that. We would very much appreciate that. It's a tremendous program and, we would be honored and privileged to be one of the featured projects in that. Spread the word that things are coming together, right? Well, my team and I just talked about this, like we are big about just like the language we use is powerful. And so our answer is always things are coming together great. Can't wait to open, right? Like just keeping the narrative positive and keeping the narrative like things are going well. It's just taking some time and that's okay. It's worth the wait, right? So help us in that by just keeping the narrative positive. We are, because of this change, we are actually going to add a crowdsourcing initiative to our website. We've had numerous people approach and say, how can we help? Are you taking investors at this point? And we're just, I'm just overwhelmed by that, but there are people that just want to bless us. And so we decided to go ahead and, launch a crowdsourcing initiative. So that'll be a part of the website as well. If anybody wants to, please direct them to that. And again, we would be, honored to receive that. But spread the word on that. And then finally buy everyone you know coffee this Christmas. We're gonna be launching a holiday coffee sale with all the profits going to the expansion. We're just going to, promote it as such. And all the bags that are sold $5 goes back to the expansion. So
And that'll be all on the website that
Yeah.
launches.
December 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, if you wanted the coffee you could just email me. We can depending on when you want to get Christmas gifts out, right? There's been some people that want it before December 1st. Just email me, but
You're willing to
Yeah.
send us an email when it goes live with the link, that would be a great
Sure.
reminder. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What are you hoping to see in the developers agreement?
So we would like to see, let me just tell you, our intention is we really are still interested in buying the building outright, right? But the terms have to be such, and this is where it would be helpful to have my banker at the table, but, we've talked about lease to own, we've talked about, is lease to own seller financing, that's the same.
Land contract.
Land contract, things like that. There's different ways to be set up that, we have to have the real estate to borrow against, right? So, being willing to be creative in how that happens and how we're able to purchase a building. I am still interested in borrowing through the revolving loan. That was a huge piece in what was gonna make this possible for us. We have a lot of skin in the game already, and we have more that we could bring to the table, right, in form of home equity. And that's something I'm talking about with my banker as well, like at what point do we pull home equity and that can make banks uncomfortable too. This is clearly a business expense, so they don't
Right.
necessarily want us to use home equity, but we can. So I guess just flexibility in the terms and the purchase price, right? I would like a firm that has fluctuated so much and it hasn't really, to our knowledge, we haven't seen any actual valuation. In fact, we had someone from the Kennel Club call us and say, that roof leaks every spring, right? Oh my God, no, I don't. So do I need to have someone actually go in there and evaluate the building? I will do that, but there's just a lot of muddiness in that. And we're buying the building, right? So I want to be wise in that, and just make sure that the price we're paying for it is appropriate. And in knowing that those build out costs came back higher than I thought. I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that, but 150,000 is higher than we thought. So
Sure.
we're just, yeah. I'm sorry if you were looking for more specific numbers, but,
no,
there's just a lot of muddiness right now, so it's.
and am I understanding you that the idea of renting to own is still what you're hoping for at this point?
I'm hoping for the agreement that will make it easiest for us to, if there's any borrowing left over to do, that it makes my bank happy. They have to be able to be first lien on it, right? And so my understanding is that lease to own doesn't allow that because I don't actually hold title. The village holds title, so, I'm learning all this, so I'm probably a little muddy on
More of a
that.
land contract.
Yeah,
And having that.
Now that Jen has laid it all out, and I actually learned a little more from her tonight than in the past. One of the things that I have, that she can be aware of, and I know that Nick was talking about putting a developer agreement together. I have done quite a few of them already, and I got samples to work together. And basically knowing what she's going through and having it down in writing certain pieces that she's looking for, I can start working on a draft agreement so we can have some dialogue going between the village and Jen and her group. That's why if we're gonna, she wants to go forward. That's why the closed section, because I want to talk about some of the options that we can maybe provide to her, to us to go forward. And basically I think in the long run, we want her, she wants us, and it's something it's a win-win. I think she did a good job tonight laying it out, some of the terms that would be something I was not aware of. And of course, I was also a person that pushed her into the land contract. Land contract because of how we have ownership. At the same time, her having agreements with ownership also gives her opportunity to use that agreement for borrowing other money. And but what I'm talking about and Jen's working on is exactly very similar agreements you are not aware of that I put together right now at this location that I'm working for a different community. So I'm going to use their format. And what you do is actually get a purchase price in place, and then we take a second on the loan portions. That's what the banker wants, and that's what I've done in other communities. So, and we use it through a TIF district, so that's how you can do this portion, and that's why we have timelines on it to meet the close of our TIF district. So it's all has to be tied together. I know I'm talking generalities, but though you got to sit down when I get Jen stuff, and I got to put it on a paper and pencil to it so everybody can understand who's doing what for who. I don't think she got that far with anybody else so far.
no, I haven't.
Does anybody else have any more questions of Jen?
Just,
No, just that you wanna be able to, you wanted to reflect as closely as possible, the initial agreement that you had with Boz. Those numbers.
Not not necessarily, right? I think that might be that's asking a lot. And $300 a month. While we were happy to, I understand like how incredibly generous that, right? Like that doesn't actually get us very far, and we want to get the building paid off as quickly as possible.
sure.
We're not looking to drag that out for years and years and years. So the agreement that, the second agreement that we landed on with those, a more realistic payment, maybe I'm being naive, and of course I'll have to go back and, adjust the projections.
Jen,
Based on
was that the agreement that I had drafted for you?
Yeah, where we talked, it was 1,200 for the first year,
Yep,
and there's 2 years, and then, but then at the end of the 5 years, the building's ours and it's clean and but then
Right.
we have a building that I can then go borrow against if I needed to at year 5. That actually is more appealing to me than
Actually,
dragging.
what we do is when I've drafted together, you actually, you can have the ability, basically, it's a land contract where we're purchasing, lending to our loan portion. And you can actually, we take a second on it. You can actually start borrowing on it in the earlier part of your agreement. That's what I've stuck together in the past.
Yes,
Thank you for coming and explaining. I came on in April, so I think I missed a lot of this.
Sure.
And this is what you did a beautiful job, and this is really exciting. You've really obviously spent a lot of time and effort thinking this out, and I hope it comes to fruition, because this is amazing. So thank you for that piece of it, because when I sit here and like hear just the numbers and all of that, it's hard to really quantify what you're talking about bringing to the village. So I really do appreciate that. And
Yeah.
I am sorry about the miscommunication and all of those pieces, because I mean, clearly the fact that you've stayed on and still want to do this, I mean, as someone who loves Port Edwards, I really do appreciate that, and I apologize for the rigmarole that you clearly have gone through, so.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Where it's just, that's what I wanted to speak to as well, is just, I'm so sorry for all of the mumbo jumbo and not getting this, I mean, done in a timely manner where we could both kind of reap the benefits of this. And I do just want to say how much I appreciate you sticking around and in communicating with us. I mean, I wouldn't have blamed you at all if you'd been like, "Look, we're done here," right? With all those different things. So I just appreciate you sticking around and then having faith in us as well to be able to put this to fruition. I think it would be a great opportunity for not only Port Edwards, but for you guys as well. I've obviously visited you at Mission Coffee in Mid-State a couple of times. I've even sent her messages before I knew that there was an app, like, please, for the love of God, tell me you have something down there. But the thing that I love the most is the willingness and the want to be connected into the community, right? Bringing in those different pieces, different businesses, different ideas that you have, and then also like the 5K and the different things where you really want to, and it really kind of jumps out at me anyway, that you want to be involved in the community. You just don't want to set up a business just to have a business. You want to be involved. You want to be a part of the community. And I think especially being in a small community, that speaks volumes for you as a person, and then the type of business you want to run. And I think that's the type of businesses that we want in Port Edwards. So thank you again for sticking with us. I hope that we can figure out something. I know we have closed session later, and Dwayne kind of spoke on how he can kind of get this process going so this can benefit both of us.
Thanks, Betsy. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you
Yeah,
for coming.
thank you.
And I really, when I talked to Jen today, wanted everybody to hear that the passion's still there. It's all still there. And I feel kind of like us as a board, we have a bit of a responsibility to help make sure that this efficiently serves the village and serves you. And echoing everybody else, I'm so sorry that it has been drug on like this, and we're so thankful that you're still invested. And I think we can get it done. And I, you know, from speaking with Dwayne, I mean, I think we're gonna figure this out. I almost feel a little funny, like how long that Mission Coffee sign has been out there. It's like forcing you to be in, because that's your reputation on the building.
Yeah.
And then for it to not, and it was shocking to all of us to find out there's no developer agreement. That was a bit of a knock backwards. As a board, we really didn't realize that wasn't, we didn't know.
Yeah, there was.
So super excited.
Yeah.
And to clarify, the numbers that we worked with through this committee over the summer, those, do we need to disregard those as we kind of
We're gonna go into
reevaluate
closed session and have a conversation.
and return to that, what we had talked about?
I don't know.
Okay,
Dwayne's got
That's
some
okay.
things to share
That's fine.
with us, so we'll see from there.
okay, good.
Well, we, get to the sign, just a quick note to the sign. I was kind of lamenting that too. I'm like, I just am embarrassed. Like, people are wondering, and I'll have people be like, we stopped by your shop. I'm like, oh God, you didn't look in the window, did you? Like, I'm sorry, yeah, it's coming, right? But, I was just kind of lamenting it one day, and my catering director, kitchen manager, she's like, that sign being up is the only reason I reached out to ask if you were hiring. So like, it brought me one of my most efficient, amazing staff that has helped keep me in the game. Cause when I just wanna like throw my hands up and just go back to a 9 to 5, like, where it's predictable, and which I'm ruined for a 9 to 5 at this point. That's never gonna happen. But there's days, right, where you're just like, just forget it. She's kept me in, and she's a Port resident, and so the only reason she reached out was because that sign was up, so it was good.
All right.
Thank you for your
Yes, thank
presentation.
you. Please reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Thank
will
you.
make the motion to go into closed session per 1985 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, to discuss 140 Market Avenue and 231 and 241 Market Avenue and take possible action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Get out, Jen.
So so Tier, for this, all you have to do is pause the recording so that Dwayne and I can stay on. You don't have to mute or whatever. You just have to pause the recording.
This is recording in the corner there. There's a pause button right next to it,
Okay.
going up at the very, well, it should be on yours on the screen.
I don't know, okay.
Keep going up.
What do you mean?
The recording right there.
Got
See
it,
the
got it,
pause?
got it.
By the way,
Okay,
All right, where's my? All right, any old business? Nope.
no,
Any new business?
no,
Any correspondence?
no.
Dwayne, you've got some projects that will be coming up on our next agendas.
ma'am.
The next meeting date, would you guys be all right with deciding that at the board meeting? Cause it's gotten real shuffly lately.
Yeah,
that or like if we need to like do it by email too ahead of time, that
That's
works
fine.
too.
All right, let's
I'd
stand
like to be
adjourned.
there I'd like to be there in person at the next one, so we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Betsy,
just end it, I think.